I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna review The Last of Us 2. And this isn't even about the spoilers. I just want this to be over with so we can all move on with our lives, because I know what's coming and I know how this is going to end, and I think it'd be better if we just, got it over with. Let's just do it. Just rip the Band-Aid off. All right, Last of Us 2, it's a zombie game for the PlayStation 4, whatever number we're on now. It's the sequel to a game that many consider to be one of the biggest, best, coolest games of all time. Not because it's super fun, but because it's very sad and emotional and serious, and it kind of, in a lot of people's eyes, elevated gaming and what games can do in terms of, telling a story. It's zombies, but it's sad, and it's very mature and cool, and a lot of people liked it. It was a very, very, very popular game, and it's still held up as one of the most popular games of all time. So, of course, everyone has been, eagerly awaiting the sequel and seeing how the sequel is going to be and how it changes things and if it really is gonna live up to the hype that the first game produced. But the problem with all this is that the game itself it's been in production so long that a lot of conversation has built up around this. And if you know my YouTube channel, I don't usually talk about video games, but in this case, I'm going to be talking about this video game because in this case, the conversation surrounding the game is probably bigger at this point than the actual, game itself. And a lot of it isn't even about the game at this point. The game might have sparked a lot of conversations, but at this point there's so many debates and conversations and arguments surrounding the game, it's kind of insane. Usually there's a lot of controversy surrounding some popular releases, and there's a lot of arguments or debates or, buzzworthy conversations that you can have about a game. But The Last of Us 2 has gone above and beyond your typical kind of, debate conversation surrounding this game. There's so much discussion around this game. It's basically a headline generator at this point. There's so many things you could discuss. This game's got it all. It's a PlayStation exclusive, so you have all these little video game nerds arguing over which console is better, and a lot of these PlayStation nerds have been pointing to The Last of Us, the original game, and saying, look, we have the greatest game ever. So then there's a lot of people who are saying aha, is this game going to continue being the best game ever? Because then it can prove if the PlayStation's the greatest console ever. There's also a lot of people who've been complaining about the game or praising the game because its story is so important that a lot of people feel like that maybe the story is getting in the way of the gameplay. And that's a big thing for nerds too. They like to argue about whether video games have too much story in it, not enough actual video game in the video game. That's a huge discussion that's been going on forever. In fact, story is so important in this game that the developer of the game, I think the head guy of the game, has gone on record to say they're trying to make sure the game is not fun. That's not where they want to have associated with their game. It's super serious, it's super dark, and a lot of people are like, why? Games should be fun, and a lot of people are like, games can be more than just fun, and whether or not games should be fun or not is a big debate, especially with this company, Naughty Dog, who went from making very colorful, bright, cartoony games when they were first becoming popular, and now they're making this, a game where they're proud to say that you have to kill dogs because they're attacking you, and you have to make hard choices, and the hard choice is killing a dog, and they name the dog, and the owner of the dog cries when you kill it because it's a serious game. And don't even get me started on the fact that there are lesbians in this game. And on top of all of that, you have also the companies come under fire recently because they've been apparently putting their employees in crunch time. And if you don't know what crunch time is, it's when employees have to work over 40 hours a week to get a game done. And Last of Us 2 has been doing a lot of crunch time. And a lot of people have been saying this is a necessary thing. Unfortunately, we have to do this. But a lot of people have been saying, these games don't have crunch time, so why does this game have crunch time? And those people say, the game is higher quality and it requires more crunch time because it's a bigger game and it's more important and it's the best game ever. And and then on top of that, you had an employee who apparently was disgruntled with the company who just leaked the entire game onto the internet. And a lot of you are probably watching this review because you thought I was going to make a review about the game because of spoilers. No, I'm making a review of this game because there's so many freaking things to talk about with this game. People like to talk about things they enjoy. And as a result, these sort of topics end up popping up. People aren't just going to sit around the internet agreeing with each other all day. And as nice as that may sound, that's actually really boring. I mean, discussion on the internet can obviously get out of hand and people can get rude and become mean, but in a lot of cases, these discussions are important. If you're interested in Last of Us 2, these things are all kind of relevant to you. You might not need to know about all these subjects. You might not need to care about any of these things, but inevitably they will impact the game and how you care about the game. But here's the thing, some people have been debating these subjects so long that at this point they actually seem to care more about the conversation than they do the actual game itself. And I don't know. I mean, obviously a lot of people are going to look at that and say, that's dumb. You shouldn't care about these things so much that it goes above and beyond the original purpose that you cared about. But speaking as someone who enjoys spending a ton of time on the internet and not very much time playing The Last of Us, I've gotten a lot more fun out of these conversations than I have the actual game itself. You may go ahead and post below about how that makes me a sad man and pathetic, but honestly, these things are pretty interesting. These conversations are worth having. The conversation of crunch time has been going on for years. It might not be something that's important to you, but people's lives are on the line with this. So yeah, some people may dislike all these arguments online, but I'm actually a fan of them and I enjoy the conversation. But the actual problem with all this is the game's about to come out. We're at a defining moment right now. We're at Schrodinger's cat of a game review. The game could be good, and a lot of people could be wrong. The game could be bad, a lot of people could be wrong. Basically, there's gonna be a lot of unhappy people, and the conversation just kind of starts to dissolve at this point because it's about interpreting whether or not the game is good or bad, and therefore being right or wrong because the game is bad. And that conversation is honestly just a lot less fun to me. Okay, so in order to ensure the conversation around this game stays healthy and not just this we win, you lose kind of argument, I have decided to go ahead and review the game as previously stated at the beginning of this video. Yes, the game is not out yet, that's fine. You don't need to see the game, you don't need to play the game, you don't need to hear any reviews about the game. I got you covered. After you hear this review, just go ahead and go down to the discussion and the comments and just keep the debate alive, people. Just keep on talking about it, okay? This is all you're gonna need for the game. Okay, so Last of Us 2, I give it an 8 out of 10, but it's a very weak, strong 8. It's like a 7.2 out of 10 that I rounded up because they did so many things right. I like their stance on killing dogs. I felt like you killed just enough dogs in the game, but who's to say how many dogs, you know? It's like, who's to say how many dogs killed is a good amount of dogs killed? I thought their stance on abortion was very interesting. I was very shocked by the opinion of the characters in the game on the new Star Wars franchise and how it compared to the prequels. And man, that whole last chapter of the game that was entirely focused on pineapple on pizza just really shook me to my core. So that's it. It's a weak 7 to a strong 8. And let me know how this met up with your expectations for the game. What kind of things were you expecting from the game? And did the game deliver on it in the way you felt? Specifically, go ahead and put your thoughts on abortion down below. That should be good in regards to conversations surrounding the game. But ultimately, guys, don't let the conversation end. Stay connected and don't think there's a winner or a loser in this situation. Have a good night, Netscape Navigators.